Welcome to the Training Portal podcast, where we delve into the heart of growth and transformation, both personal and professional. I'm your host, Melissa Mostert, and every fortnight, I'll be sharing a meaningful conversation over coffee with industry leaders, innovators, and changemakers who are helping to shape the future of South Africa. In each episode, we'll uncover stories of passion and impact, stories that inspire and challenge us to think differently about development, innovation, and community upliftment. Whether you're dedicated to education, seeking personal growth, or driven by a desire to make a difference, this podcast is your companion on that journey to continuous development. The Training Portal podcast is your source of knowledge and insight, guiding you through the ever-evolving landscape of development in South Africa. On today's episode of the Training Portal podcast, we're excited to welcome Wilma De Souza, a highly accomplished fundraiser, capacity builder, project manager, and mentor. Born in Nairobi to Goan parents and raised in the UK, Wilma has made a significant impact in South Africa since 2007. With a diverse career that began in publishing and marketing, Wilma transitioned to management and leadership training, working with top corporate clients and facilitating international study programs for MBA students. Her passion for societal transformation is evident in her work with NGOs, where she has raised over 30 million rand for Usiko Stellenbosch, helping to create a sustainable financial model. Wilma's ability to connect across cultures and industries makes her a true bridge builder. Today, she'll share her insights on fundraising, capacity building, and leadership in the nonprofit sector. Please join me in welcoming Wilma De Souza to the podcast. So, Wilma, welcome to the podcast, our first podcast at the Training Portal podcast.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm really excited to be here today. This is also my first podcast that I've ever done.
So we're going to try this for the first time together. It's very exciting.
Yes, lots of learning.
Lots of learning, but we'll learn along the way. So, Wilma, tell us more about your upbringing and how it led to where you are today.
So I confuse you South Africans horribly because I don't fit into any of the normal kind of South African stereotypes. As you can hear, I have a British accent but I have an Indian background. So my ancestry is from Goa in India, which was a Portuguese colony. I was actually born in Kenya, so African by birth. And I do think Africa was always calling me. But then my parents moved to the UK when I was 2, so I've been raised in the UK, and I'm very English in lots of ways. I do love my tea. And then I came to South Africa for the first time in the mid-90s and found a Cape Town boy. We got married. I dragged him back to the UK kicking and screaming. And every year his voice was just getting louder and louder. So we came back to South Africa in 2007. So a very, very varied background that I come from.
And when you came back to South Africa, is that when you joined with Usiko?
So it was a little bit of a journey to Usiko. I actually come from a corporate background, corporate and academic background. I started my career in advertising and publishing, marketing. So I have a very strong understanding of kind of brand image and stakeholder management. I got into leadership and management training. Specifically because the corporate world I struggled with. I loved some aspects of it, but there wasn't the passion there. And when I got into management and leadership training, I started to feel passionate about it. Especially the learning aspect, the educational aspects of it. And I was actually working with a gentleman doing training for big corporate companies like Alan Gray and
those are big companies.
and the Arabella Group. And then he left to relocate up to Johannesburg, and he wanted me to come up there with him. But my family and I were only just starting to settle in Cape Town, and I didn't want to have another big move. So I had the choice of either going back into corporate or starting up my own company, which I did do.
That's always such a scary thing to want to do, is starting your own company.
And it was never something that I ever had an ambition for. I was quite happy to work for other people and earn my salary at the end of the month. But yeah, I started working from home, and actually I never looked back. I absolutely loved it. So I was doing project management work, and that led me into working with Usiko, because I got this strong network of in the NGO sector. And that's where I really found my passion. So I was just offered an opportunity to do some fundraising, and I thought, why not? It's a new skill to learn. And yeah, so started off with a Stellenbosch organisation doing youth development work. And from that, it led me to Usiko.
And I mean, you've raised, what, 30 million?
So the executive director, Arnold Ockers, and we worked out last year. So now in August, I've actually been working for Usiko for 9 years.
Oh, wow. Almost a decade.
Almost a decade, yeah. So we worked out that in that time, I had raised 30 million rand for the organisation.
That is a huge amount of money. Yeah. And I can only imagine the difference that type of money makes.
That's the beauty of it. It's funny because when I told my daughter this, she kind of laughed and said, "So you are a millionaire, but a millionaire having an impact for other people." And I thought, yeah, that's a really beautiful way of thinking about it. So really is. Something I'm very proud of.
So we've been speaking quite a bit about Usiko, but for those of us who don't know what Usiko is, would you mind explaining a bit more?
So Usiko has been, Usiko is a non-profit organisation that's based in Jamestown in Stellenbosch. The organisation has been in operation for 22 years now. And it started off because the community members themselves saw that there was issues with the youth in their community, and they were very worried about what was happening with them. So they came together in a forum. They invited Professor Tony Naidu, who had just come into Stellenbosch University in their psychology department, and specifically looking at kind of community psychology, and wanting to work with communities. So they came together in a forum. And from that, they started out doing programs using wilderness therapy and mentoring and skills development with the most disruptive boys at the local school. So they started off working with about 25 boys then, the ones who were most at risk of dropping out of school, of truancy, and getting caught in lives of crime. So, from there, they started a girls' program a few years later. And it's really grown from there. Now we have an aftercare program for younger children. We also work with rural women who are looking to upskill themselves and start their own businesses, or go into kind of more sustainable jobs. And more recently, we opened up the Skill Centre, the Webbers Valley Skill Centre, which we've opened up alongside Training Portal.
Definitely. And it was definitely one of Training Portal's biggest accomplishments up until this day, to open that campus centre and the community centre, most importantly, because it's a space that is needed for the youth. A space where they can go and they can upskill themselves, and not just the youth, all community members, to upskill themselves and find jobs and, instill those skills into others. It's definitely a huge accomplishment, I think, for both of us. Yes. Very proud of that one.
It was a strategic vision that Usiko had for a long time, because we work with children and youth, mainly in school or just coming out of school, and what we're instilling in them is a love of learning, is understanding that education is one of the best ways out of poverty, and to really grab opportunities to change mindsets so that they understand and can recognize the opportunities and grab them when they come round, to build in resilience, to build in those kind of characters that's going to keep them heading towards a positive lifestyle.
Absolutely, and become lifelong learners. I think that is definitely something that was one of the core values that Training Portal and Usiko had in common. Yes. Was we wanted to create a place where learners could come and become lifelong learners of a variety of ages. So, Wilma, tell me, what is it that you think Usiko is doing currently that is different from all other organizations that are trying to do similar things?
So, we're part of a full NGO sector, and we don't see ourselves in competition with anyone, because essentially we're all on the same mission. We want to make the world a better place. So we partner with a lot of other NGOs as well, and there's some great work being done out there using slightly different methodologies. So like other organizations, we have the intention of supporting the youth, supporting the children, supporting the most at risk in our communities, to really help them to find the opportunities to better their lives. And the way we do that is using wilderness therapy, so taking them out on camps and into nature. And it's the silence and the solitude that the children that we work with, the youth that we work with, they very rarely have those opportunities to just be able to sit and think, and to plan and reflect on their lives and find what are their talents, what do they actually want to do with the rest of their lives. So we give them that space in nature, in silence, in order to do that.
And I mean, for some of them, it's the first time they've actually had to sit down and think, where do I see this going? Where do I see? And I mean, taking them into nature, that is such a brilliant idea. I can imagine all the success that would have.
It's really taking them out of their comfort zones, because they're not used to being in that kind of environment. And in fact, a lot of them will kind of, when you ask them about going camping and on hikes and things like that, their mindset is that's not something for them. When I first started working with the organisation and I had my first kind of talk with Arnold, I said to him, I don't understand, Arnold, why are you taking them on camps and hikes when they're surrounded by nature? Here we are in Stellenbosch with these beautiful mountains and the wine estates and the gorgeous nature that we're surrounded by. I don't understand it. And he said to me, yes, Wilma, they're surrounded by nature, but they never go into nature. A lot of the children we work with, they are stuck in townships, they're stuck on rural farms, not only physically, but mentally, because they don't see nature as something that is available to them, that is part of, what as a healing space for them, if that makes sense.
And do many of them go back to nature and use it as a healing space?
Yes. I mean, the camps can be really life-changing for them. So one of a story that I'd really like to share with you is that the first time that I went on a camp and really saw the power of nature was with a group of 16-year-old girls.
Okay.
Now, at the time, I had a 16-year-old girl at
Oh,
home
no.
myself. So I was kind of expecting the girls, when they arrived, they would be, quite cheeky and, noisy and
not wanting to be there.
and not wanting to be there. And in fact, when they arrived, they were completely the opposite. They were a little bit, they were out of their comfort zone. So they weren't quite sure what was going on. They were very respectful to us as the camp leaders. But because I don't speak Afrikaans myself, I really noticed the body language.
Okay.
So what I witnessed was they were carrying these really heavy burdens. You could see it on, the way they carried their shoulders. You could see it on their faces, even just the way they walked. They were these heavy adult burdens that as young people, they had no right to be carrying.
I mean, a lot of them come from some seriously dysfunctional families. Some of them even act as the mom to their siblings because their parents can't be there.
Yes.
That is huge burdens for 16-year-olds to take on.
So we do these rites and rituals. I mean, it's called, the program is called a Rites of Passage program.
Okay.
And what we do is use kind of indigenous First Nation and African rites and rituals, as well as modern psychological methodologies. And we send them off into the mountains to sit by themselves. And they don't know how long it's for, but it's around 4 or 5 hours. So they go off and sit by themselves, and we give them a journal and a pen and 4 questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I heading with my life? And what do I have to offer? And like I said before, it's probably the first time in their life that they've actually had a chance to even think about those very deep questions. And so at the end of that time, we call them back and we do like this whole welcoming ceremony with them. And the girls that walked up that mountain were completely different from the ones that came down. They walked up into that mountain with all the heavy burdens of adults, and they came back with the lightness of children, with that playfulness of children. You could really see there was a massive shift that had happened in them. And I think once they really understand who they are and what they want out of their life, that's a massive shift for them.
I can imagine. That really is amazing. Are there any other success stories that you can think of?
So a few years ago, we had one of our funders, a British-based funder, come to visit us, and we sat in a circle at one of the schools that we work with some of our beneficiaries. And one of the young ladies, she told her story to them. Now, for the youth that we work with, their first language is Afrikaans, and they often feel very shy to speak in English for no reason, because their English is absolutely fantastic. But, they have a group of British funders who have come. So it was quite a daunting experience for them.
I can imagine.
Now, had it been at the beginning of the program, they would have been very, very shy to speak to them. They would have been looking down at the ground and really probably just answering kind of one word answers. But when the funders came, they were able to sit up tall and look them in the eye and really speak with this amazing confidence. So one of the girls shared that before she started the program, in the community that she lives in, she is, there's lots of gang activities going on. So she would come home from school every day and just sit in her room because she was too afraid to go out, to venture out. And so she thought of herself as an introverted person. And then she came on this program And one particular incident happened where we took them, we took the group ice skating. And she was the only one in the group who could actually ice skate. Her father had taught her when she was young.
Oh.
So she was helping the others. She was teaching the others. And she said she really enjoyed that. And she really enjoyed just going around the ice skating and the interaction with the other young people in the group. And she came away and she said, I realised I'm not an extrovert at all, an introvert. I am actually an extrovert. And I love that. And she said she went home and she put together a list of the things that she wants to do with her life. And so we asked her, well, what are some of the things on your list? And she said, top of the list is she wants to climb Mount Everest.
Oh, wow.
And second on the list, she wants to have her first kiss. And the whole group just melted when she said that.
That is adorable.
Yeah. And we just thought, that's what success looks like. It's actually helping these young people to really understand what they want to do, what they want to get out of their lives.
And I mean, I understand every program like this, I assume, has successes, but I can also imagine it comes with its own sort of challenges. How do you guys overcome? Like, what are those challenges and what do you do to overcome them?
So, yes, funding is always a big challenge, especially now after COVID. South Africa is not considered a critical area anymore. So getting international funding is much harder, especially as a lot of that international funding is going more towards the war-torn areas and even, their own countries in Europe which are struggling. So competition for South African funding is getting much tougher. So yeah, that's sustainability for any organisation is becoming harder. So we're doing a lot more collaborations now. We're having to think in new and more innovative ways of how to be a sustainable organisation. Another challenge, we're working in very difficult circumstances. We heard about on New Year's Eve, one of the 18-year-old girls that we were working with in the Northern Cape was raped and murdered.
Oh, that's horrible.
Which was really, and this is the reality of the circumstances that we work with. There's lots of abuse that goes on. There's lots of violence that the communities are exposed to, that the youth and the children that we work with are exposed to. So that's always very, very heartbreaking. And we have very strong policies around child protection and around health and safety. So as an organisation, we're always very highly aware of that. With the skills training centre that we're working with at the moment, we're doing a lot of preparations with the youth, getting them, with their mindsets and understandings, that love of learning, and then also the practical skills. So with the skills centre, they have access to online learning. Not only the hard skills, but also the softer skills. They can do courses in resilience and also kind of getting their driver's licenses, learner licenses. So there's lots life skills. There's lots of amazing online courses that's available to them. And then the next step we want to do is put together a database. So we have people who have got the skills and the mindsets, and we want to match them with organizations who are looking for people like that. So I'm putting out a call to organizations and institutions. If you're looking for people with skills, please contact Usiko so that we can put you on our database and we can start matching people to the right organizations
sounds like
and the right
a great
jobs.
initiative to ensure that those learners and the community members especially are being matched. But it brings me to my next question. Speaking of the community, in Jamestown, for example, how do you ensure that the community's needs are met in that, by Usiko?
Yeah. So the problem ultimately that we are trying to solve is a lost generation. We, in traditional societies, in historical societies, we would have been guided and led through the major milestones in our lives. And that changing from childhood into adulthood, that's a critical milestone for all of us, that in our traditional societies, we would have been helped and guided through that time. And in our modern societies, for all sorts of reasons, that elder guidance has fallen away. So at Usiko, that's essentially what we're doing, is bringing in that elder guidance through our programs, through our mentors, because we are essentially people from the same communities as the beneficiaries that we work with. Helping, acting as role models of what a positive lifestyle can look like, to help with mindset changes and with skills and knowledge transfers, and just really being there. In 2015, Harvard put out a report that it only takes one adult, one person in a child's life to be that stable influence that will allow that thriving in difficult circumstances for any child. So that's what we want to be in Usiko, that one stable adult influence to really help and guide. So within the community, we're very much grounded. Historically within the organization, our previous beneficiaries have then come back as volunteers and mentors.
Lovely.
And then become staff members. So we have very intimate knowledge of the challenges that our beneficiaries go through, and the methodologies that will help them.
And tell me, are there any partnerships or collaborations that you or that Usiko does that assists in this whole process?
So we're working with a training portal who helped to actually set up the skills center. So we're learning from each other, which is fantastic. We also have a collaboration with Corporate Strategy Group, who are based in Paarl, and Learning based in Johannesburg, who provide around 50 online courses through the call center.
Oh, wow.
We also work with a lot of other NGOs. We're working with schools. We partner with 8 schools where we actually deliver our programs. So there's very strong partnerships that we have there.
That's amazing. And with you mentioned schools. Does Usiko collaborate with any other educational institutions, universities, anything like that?
So we have a strong partnership with Stellenbosch University. One of our founding members and current board member is retired from Stellenbosch University. And Professor Tony Naidu, he would send a number of the masters and postgraduate students to work with Usiko. So that's a very strong partnership. We also work with the University of the Western Cape. And we have a program in the Northern Cape right now as well. So we're also looking for partnerships with the universities based there. So lots of great partnerships around that too.
So you mentioned in the Northern Cape you're looking for partnerships. What type of resources are you looking for from these educational institutions?
So really help, I think, with data gathering, with being able to write up reports on our impact. So we work with a very small community called Brandflay that is very, very isolated and doesn't have very many resources there at the moment. So it would be great to partner with organizations, companies who might be willing to invest in this program as well. We're also looking for companies who might take on some of the kids post-matric to expose them to different kinds of organizations, different kinds of work experiences and opportunities. And of course, like I said, the universities to help us with the research.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of these institutions, even not just in the Northern Cape, they're all over. And I mean, there's youth all over South Africa that could make use of programs like Usiko's that I think would be very beneficial to, like you said, that generation gap that was missing. So I think that's vitally important.
Usiko has established a very good trusting reputation in South Africa and worldwide. We also have partnerships all over the world, but particularly in South Africa, we get quite a number of requests to work with schools, but right now we don't have the capacity. So yes, it would be fantastic to be able to help other provinces, other organisations. Our model is that we train up local facilitators so that they can deliver within their community based on their own community needs.
So going back to community needs and skills development, especially, I mean, at Training Portal, we are very big on skills development. What is your approach to skills development in community empowerment?
Oh, that's a very big question. So what we have to understand about under-resourced communities is that there's lots of trauma that's sitting there and lots of toxic beliefs that are sitting there. So you can't just come in with skills development sitting on top of all of that, because people won't recognize the opportunities. You need to really deal with the stuff that's underneath, that deeper stuff that's underneath. You've got to allow people a space to heal from the traumas, to speak about the things that they're going through, and to connect with others, and to understand that you're not the only one going through this experience. There are others as well. And a big thing that we do is create circles of supporting networks. Okay. So, sisterhoods, brotherhood, circles where they can turn to each other and get support from each other, as well as Usiko as an organization, and to really, start to shift those mindsets, to really start to see opportunities, to understand, where I want to go to, what's the future that I want to create for myself, and then actually understand that it's your responsibility. So other people are there to help and support you, but you've got to create the resilience. You've got to develop the resilience, develop the character to be able to take on those skills, to take on the opportunities.
It's like almost having to build that foundation, because if you don't have that proper foundation, I mean, building the walls of knowledge, it's just going to collapse on them. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. We have briefly spoken about the community centre in Stellenbosch. I do want to ask if, for example, anyone in Jamestown is wanting to make use of the community centre and the workstations, how do they go about doing that?
So we have a coordinator called Tania, who
She's lovely.
who manages all the booking of the seats. So we have 10 laptops available, and we have 10 kind of desktop computers available where people can book time to come in there. So you can contact Tanya. I understand that you're going to put all the contact details
all her
there.
Contact details are there.
So Tanya's there not only for the booking, but she can help with if there's any particular course that you're interested in applying to university, if you want to apply to the police or the army, or if there's any kind of career that you're interested in and you don't know how to go about it, she's the person who can help you. She can find, if she doesn't know already, she can find out what's needed, what kind of qualifications.
So the middleman between them and their career goals.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And I mean, Tanya herself is such an amazing person. So I can just imagine how at ease she puts the people. So that's fantastic. So Wilma, tell me, what is the future goals and visions of Usiko?
So as I mentioned, our big methodology is wilderness therapy. So we have a big strategic vision right now to own our own campsite.
Oh, wow.
For the last 20 years, we've been using other people's campsites. We have a good relationship with Cape Nature. So so we've been using other people's campsites, but there is a cost involved in using that. Whereas if we have our own campsite, we can use that money that we have for the venues to actually reinvest into into having our own facility. We can hold more campsites. We can hold more camps. We can hold camps for younger children where it's not appropriate to take them away for a number of days. We can do like day camps with them. We can also have it as an income generation possibility where we can hire out the facilities to other organisations as well. So right now we're in discussions with Stellenbosch municipality. There are some possible venues. So it's all very, very new at the moment, so I can't talk too much about it. But we are looking for investors who are really interested in big social impacts in Stellenbosch in particular, but in the wider Cape Town and Western Cape areas. We're really looking for people who want to invest in us. We also have relationships with international organizations. So right now we're doing international exchanges with NGOs in the UK and Germany, taking a group of kids from our programs over to the UK, and then a group of British kids will be coming over to South Africa.
Like an exchange program.
And for our children, it might be the only chance they ever have to travel abroad. So it's a fantastic opportunity.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So if there were other companies or other individuals who want to get involved or do something similar to what Usiko is doing in their communities, what advice would you give them?
So the first advice I would say is, there are almost 300,000 NGOs who are already registered in South Africa. And, that means that there's huge competition for funding already. So I would say the very first thing to do is to look for an NGO who is already in existence, who might be doing the same or similar work that you want to do, and partner with them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely seems like the easier way to go as well. Yeah. Like you said, with the less competition and all of that. Yeah. So Wilma, tell me, how has your work at Usiko influenced your personal growth and your personal perspectives on things?
So I discovered only when I went to work at Usiko that I'm a hugger. And I love hugging. Usiko as an organization has, like I said, they're very grounded in the community. So it's always had this very family feel about it. And I mean, I am, I'm not from that community in any way whatsoever. I'm living in Cape Town. I'm, this strange British Indian person from the UK. And so I'm kind of everything you would imagine as an external to Usiko. And yet I've never, ever been treated as an outsider. I've always been welcomed and treated as part of the family. So I discovered I'm a hugger because of them. And, South Africa has such amazing work that's going on at ground level. Whenever people hear that I'm from the UK, they always look at me a little bit quizzingly and say, well, why are you in South Africa? And the thing that you need to understand is no country can ever give you everything. You sacrifice some things in order to gain other things. And South Africa has just the most amazing people, so connected and so willing to help each other. And yes, there are difficulties, there are challenges. We all know what that is. But the crime and the difficulties is not the whole story. There are wonderful things happening at ground level. And if we focus on the positive, that's what will grow.
Exactly. I agree there. It's if we nurture that, then it will blossom more, essentially.
Yes, absolutely.
So our final question. Tell me, what do you hope people take away from hearing about Usiko and its visions and its mission? What do you hope they take away after this whole conversation today?
Yeah. So hope is a big thing. For the children that we work with, that's one of the basic things actually that we're giving them is hope, is understanding that there is a positive future that is available to them. I mean, when I first started in this work and talking to, some of the leadership in schools and asking them what are the biggest challenges here, and I was expecting them to say, the behavioural issues and the teenage pregnancies and the
normal issues that you would assume.
The gangsterism, all that kind of. That's what I was expecting them to say, and every single one of them said hopelessness. Hopelessness was their biggest challenge, because if you think about it, when you have no hope, you might as well get pregnant. You might as well, drop out of school. What's the point in going to school? Because there's no point in it's just giving up. So having a hopeful generation is one of the greatest things that we can offer to our children and to each other, and just that connection with each other. So I hope that people will take away from this podcast that there are amazing things that are going on in South Africa at ground level. People are connected, and people are, when we work together, when we collaborate, we don't all have to give the same things. I mean, we have funders who give money, and that's a fantastic thing. We absolutely need money to run our programs.
Exactly.
But we also have people who are volunteering their time, mentors who come and give their skills and their knowledge. Skills in terms of, if you're an accountant, you can you can help us with that. People who have social media skills who can help us with that. People who can donate bicycles to our aftercare program, or musical instruments, or very practical things like that. So if we all work together, we can really make a huge difference, and small differences in people's lives. Just, that's the small differences can actually often make the biggest difference.
Amazing. So if any of our listeners are wanting to make a difference along with Usiko, all their details will be in the description of the podcast, and all of their details will also be on their website. So make sure to go and check them out, and we'll see you next week. Next time on the Training Portal podcast.
For you. And that can be quite detrimental, very detrimental, specifically, if companies spend between 3% and 6% on of their payroll, total payroll on skills development in order to get the relevant points